Hello everybody, here's another video from Angie's Inspirations. So today I decided to do two book reviews for you. One is going to be Daniel Steele's Fine Things. The other one is going to be The Child Bride by Cathy. The reason why I've decided to review both these books together is because they cover a similar topic, but in very different ways. So the first book I'm going to review for you is Fine Things by Daniel Steele. Now, in this book, Fine Things, Bernie Fine is the main character, and Bernie is the manager of a department store chain in New York City. Now, this chain has department stores all across the country, and they're opening up a new store in San Francisco. And Bernie's boss asks him to go to San Francisco to open the new store. At first, Bernie is somewhat hesitant because his family is in New York and his friends are in New York, and he doesn't want to leave his life there. But his boss tells him, oh, this is only for a year. Go down and open the store and take care of the initial startup of the store, and then we will have you come back and you can have your job back here in New York. So Bernie eventually agrees to go to San Francisco and open the store. So he's in San Francisco for not that long, and one day he finds this little girl named Jane Riley wandering around in his store. He asks her if she's lost, and she said yes, she can't find her mommy, and that her and her mommy were looking for bathing suits because they're planning to go to their summer cottage for a little while, and she needs a new bathing suit. So Bernie takes the little girl to his office, gives her ice cream, and calls her mom, or pages her mom, to let her know where her little girl is and that she's safe. So while they're waiting for the little girl's mom to come and collect her, Bernie has a conversation with this little girl, and he really hits it off with the little girl. He really likes her a lot. He thinks she's really sweet and cute. And the little girl, Jane, tells Bernie that their dog, Oscar, recently died. He recently got hit by a car. So, after a few minutes, the little girl's mom comes to collect her, and Bernie finds her very attractive, and he notices that she isn't wearing a wedding ring. So he asks his secretary to look her name up. In their customer database, and his secretary finds the contact info for this lady, Elizabeth O'Reilly, and gives the contact information to Bernie. Bernie waits a few days and contacts her and asks if it would be okay if he sent a selection of bathing suits over to her house for Elizabeth to choose a bathing suit from. And she says, "Oh, that's really kind of you, but you don't have to do that. That's fine." Bernie really wants to do that, and he says, "Oh no, no trouble at all." And so he sends the bathing suits over, and the little girl chooses a bathing suit. When the bathing suits come back to the store, Bernie contacts her again, Elizabeth again, and says to her that he would really like for them to get together, maybe for coffee or something. And she invites Bernie to their summer cottage for a little bit with them. Bernie decides to go, and he buys a gift for the little girl, and the gift he buys for Jane is a stuffed puppy, and Jane loves the dog, and she calls the dog Oscar the Second. Elizabeth and Bernie fall in love. Bernie begins to spend a lot of time with them, and he becomes very attached to Jane, Elizabeth's little girl. After a while, Bernie decides to tell his mother about Elizabeth and how he's feeling about her. And he asks his mother to come to San Francisco to meet Elizabeth and Jane. Now, Bernie's mother is a Jewish woman, and she's loyal to her faith, and she wants Bernie to marry inside the Jewish faith. So she's not happy initially about Bernie meeting Elizabeth and being interested in Elizabeth. After a while, though, she does get over it, and Bernie and Elizabeth get married. Now, a few months after getting married, Elizabeth finds out that she's pregnant. And she's really, really, really happy. And she is really looking forward to the new baby. After 9 months of what would be considered a normal pregnancy, she goes into labor and has the baby. It's a boy they call Alexander. And while Elizabeth is in the hospital having Alexander, she experiences extreme exhaustion. And while she was pregnant with him, she did experience pains in her hips that had never happened before. She just chalked them up to pregnancy, however, and went on about her day-to-day life like nothing was ever wrong or happening. Well, after running a blood panel and some other tests on Elizabeth, it comes back that she has osteosarcoma. Osteosarcoma is bone cancer. And Elizabeth and Bernie are devastated. They immediately start chemo in the hopes that Elizabeth will be able to beat the osteosarcoma and be able to continue her life as normal after it is all over. Now, Elizabeth is a teacher, so through her chemo treatments, throughout the course of her chemo treatments, she still goes to work. And she does her best to teach the children at work, does her best to do her job. And some of the kids ask her if she's going to be okay. And Elizabeth tells the children that, there will come a day when she's not there anymore. And she actually tells the children in her classroom that she's preparing to go to heaven. And she's really struggling with this. She's struggling with the fact that she's fighting a losing battle. She doesn't want to go anywhere. She just had a baby, and she has a little girl to raise, and she just got married. And she wants to enjoy her life and not have to worry about any of this stuff. However, it becomes apparent that God has other plans for Elizabeth and her family. Now we're just going to backtrack for a second. During her pregnancy, Elizabeth was approached by a man at work who is Jane's biological father. Now, he could never hold down a job, never had any real money of his own, was always asking Elizabeth for money even when they were married. So, this day when she bumps into him in the playground at work, he stops her and asks her for money. And he threatens to, file for custody of Elizabeth if she doesn't give him the money. So she goes home and tells Bernie about this, and they give him $25,000. And he leaves him alone for a while, but he keeps coming back. After Elizabeth passes away, and eventually he files for joint custody of Elizabeth. And then the joint custody, his plan is for the joint custody to eventually turn into full custody. Now there's an issue with this. Jane doesn't even know that her biological father is alive because Elizabeth didn't want him around her, because of the type of person that he is and was. And she tells Jane that her father is dead. To protect her, of course. So, when all of this comes out about her father being alive and filing for custody, Jane, of course, is very shocked and surprised and doesn't quite know how to deal with it. I mean, she is only a 7-year-old little girl. And her mom just died. So she's having issues coping with all of this. Now, when Elizabeth had cancer, Bernie's mother came down to San Francisco to give them a hand with caring for the children and the housework and meal prep and all of that. Elizabeth's parents, I should mention, passed away in a car accident when she was very young. And so she didn't have any family. Now, after Elizabeth passes away, Bernie's mother stays at the house to continue to help with the daily chores and support her son and her grandchildren. Eventually, though, Bernie hires a nanny and his mother goes back to New York. Now, Bernie and the children are getting along fine and they're coping really well. And, of course, they're sad. And they miss Elizabeth dearly. And she's never really far from their thoughts. So this one day, Bernie is just thinking about Elizabeth, and he goes over to her desk where she used to correct her students' homework. And he opens up a drawer, and inside the drawer there are 3 letters. One is addressed to Bernie, one is addressed to Jane, and one is addressed to Alexander. These letters were the most touching part of this book. They were a mother and a wife's heartfelt words to her family, and the letters conveyed a lot of love to her family, and it was obvious that she didn't want to leave her family, and that she wished she could stay around and be there for them. But specifically in the letter that she wrote to Barney, she gives him permission to go and find someone else to love. She actually wants him to find someone else to love because she said someone deserves his love. And he deserves someone to share his life with. shortly after he finds the letters, there's a court date set for a hearing for Jane with her involving her biological father and the custody issue. So the judge issues visitation for her biological father, and he's seeing her for about a month during this visitations, and he brings her back on time for about a month. But this one day, he doesn't bring her back on time, and he actually crosses the border with her and goes into Mexico, and he holds her there, and she's held up in a hotel room with her biological father, and the reason why he does this is because he needs money to pay a drug debt, and he's thinking that Bernie will pay the ransom for her. Now, the one thing that Elizabeth said to Bernie about the whole situation with her ex-husband is, please do not let him near Jane. I don't want him near Jane at all. And Bernie does his best to uphold this, and he's heartbroken when the judge issues the visitation order, and of course he has no other choice but to obey. And he does. And when her biological father doesn't return Jane on time during this one visit, he panics and he's freaking out. And of course the police get the FBI involved, and they do a search for him, and they find him in Mexico. And through all of this, Bernie's stressed out. So his mother comes back down to San Francisco again to offer support and guidance. Bernie is insistent with the FBI that he wants to go to Mexico with them to get Jane back. And they're initially very hesitant to go ahead and let him come to Mexico with them. But eventually Bernie does end up going to Mexico, and there's a police pursuit, and in the end Jane does get returned to Bernie, and that's wonderful. After all of this, Bernie starts to date Alexander's pediatrician, And he falls in love with her. And the long and the short of that story is that they get married and they are very happy together. At the end of the book, Bernie opens up his own antique store called Fine Things. It's an excellent book. It's well worth the read. I really enjoyed it. Hope I didn't ruin it for you. I ended up giving a little more detail than I wanted to in this review, and I'm sorry for that. You really should read the book, though. It's a book that I couldn't put down. It's a really good book, and it's well worth the time if you are looking for a good book to read. Then this is your book. Alright, so now we're going to move into A Child Bride by Cathy Glass. Now, last week I reviewed Cathy Glass' book called A Baby's Cry. And as I explained to you last week, all of Cathy Glass's books are based on actual true events that she has experienced as a foster carer in the UK. So, in the beginning of this book, A Child Bride, Cathy gets a phone call from her support social worker, Jill. And she asks Cathy to take a 14-year-old Asian girl named Zena. Jill tells Cathy that Zena has requested to go into care herself, and that she does not want to be placed with an Asian family. There are no details why she doesn't want to be placed with an Asian family. At first, Cathy assumes that it's prejudice that she has, and she really hopes not. So, Cathy agrees to take Zena. Now, in the phone call, Jill tells Cathy that Zena says she may need to go to a doctor. So, she asks Cathy to make an appointment for Zena with her own doctor. So, Cathy makes that appointment for the following week. And while she's waiting for Zena to come, she goes upstairs and checks her fostering bedroom to make sure everything is in order and suitable for a 14-year-old girl. She changes the duvet on the bed, as she often does when there's a new child coming. So, The bedroom is neat and tidy, and it's up to Cathy's standards, and she's happy with it. So she goes on downstairs and continues about her day. She texts her children, Adrian, Paula, and Lucy, to let them know that there's a new foster child coming. In this book, her children are older. And she just sends them the text and the text says, "Girl, Zena, 14, see you when you get home from school and work." So Zena and her social worker arrive at the time discussed by Cathy and Jill earlier that day. And when Zena and her social worker arrive, the first thing that Cathy notices is that Zena is very, very nervous. And she's worried about Zena, and she's worried about what's making her so nervous. She keeps looking over her shoulder, looking at the clock, asking questions about whether the door is always locked. The social worker tells Cathy that it is very important that the door is always locked, because Zena doesn't feel safe if the door is not locked. So Cathy reassures Zena and the social worker that the door will always be locked. And Zena becomes a little bit at ease with this, and she begins to, I guess, relax, for lack of a better word. And so they continue chatting about Zena's situation, and the social worker says that, she will go and collect some of the rest of Zena's clothes from her mother at a later time. She did go and collect some of Zena's clothes and things that her mother had already had packed. And the mother wasn't very happy to see Zena and the social worker there, and she treated Zena very badly, speaking to her in Bengali, and no one knew what she had said because, well, no one spoke Bengali. But which, by the way, is the local language for Bangladesh, which is where Zena and her family are from. So Zena gets in the car and she's really upset, and they drive to Cathy's, and she's nervous and apprehensive when she arrives. It's like she doesn't know really what to do with herself. this is a whole new experience for her and a whole new environment, as well as being a whole new culture. Because even though she's been in the UK and she was born in the UK, inside their house, her mother and father practiced Bengali culture. So Zena and her siblings are more used to the Bengali culture than the English culture. So after the social worker leaves, Cathy asks Zena, would you like to go upstairs and unpack and settle in? Zena says sure, she would. Cathy asks, do you need any help? She says, oh no. Zena actually asks Cathy, what time would you like me to prepare supper? Cathy tells her that, it's her job to prepare supper and that she will be preparing supper while she's there. And Zena doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. And she tells her that sometimes even Adrian prepares supper. And sometimes the kids help preparing supper. And Adrian is Cathy's son. And Zena immediately questions this. She's amazed and kind of taken aback a little bit by the fact that a man cooks, because in the Bengali culture, women are supposed to do all the cooking and cleaning and looking after the children and general maintenance of the household. So Cathy assures her that, it's okay within their culture for a man to cook, and it's quite acceptable for men to cook in their culture. And Zena can't quite wrap her head around this, and she's again taken aback. And so as they're going upstairs, the door unlocks, and Zena becomes very apprehensive again, and she says, oh, what is that? Who is that? And Cathy says, oh, no, don't worry, love, it's just my daughter, Paula. She has her own key. She's just returning from school. Don't worry about it, it's fine. And of course, Zena is very, very hesitant, and she sort of waits there on the stairs to make sure that the door is locked behind Paula when she gets in. And so Cathy yells down to Paula for her to lock the door. As she's coming in, and Paula locks the door behind her. And then Cathy decides to just go downstairs and leave Zena's room for a little bit. And she goes downstairs and introduces Paula to Zena, and Zena is very polite, and she's actually overly polite. And she says, pleased to meet you. And she's very quiet. And so then they go upstairs and proceed to unpack Zena's bags. Now, Cathy is taken aback by the lack of clothes that Zena has. And so she gives her some of the spare clothes that she has for foster children who come with not a whole lot of stuff. But because the social worker had said that Zena's mother had packed a bag for her, Cathy had expected her to have more clothes than she did. Cathy decides not to make a big deal out of this, and she figures, oh, the social worker will go and collect Zena's things and bring them back to her. So Zena continues to be nervous as everyone comes home that evening, and she is constantly checking the door after Adrian and Lucy come in from work to make sure that the door is locked. And again, Cathy reiterates with her, we will make sure the door is locked well. You don't need to panic every time the door opens. My children have keys, so they're old enough to have a key. And she asks she says, do you have a key to your house at home? And Zena says, oh no, my father would never allow that. And Cathy's a little taken aback because 14 is old enough to have a key, in Cathy's opinion. And so Cathy just decides, not to make a big deal out of this, and she goes about her normal daily routine. And then a few days pass, and Zena says that she wants to go and get her clothes herself, and because she would like to take the opportunity to visit her siblings and make sure they're okay, because she explains to Cathy that her mother is often sick and lying on the couch, and the responsibility of taking care of her siblings is often passed along to her, and her mother, in effect, does very, very little to help it around the house. And it comes out that Zena does all the cooking, cleaning, and she's expected to get the other children up in the morning, get them ready for school, and actually get them off to school. Cathy is of the opinion that this is a big responsibility for a 14-year-old child. And she questions Zena. She says, doesn't your father help out? Okay, I understand that your mother's ill sometimes, but doesn't your father help out? And Zena says, oh, no, never. It's not the man's place. It's the woman's place to do all of that in our culture. And it sort of angers Cathy. She's a little taken back, and she reports back to the social worker, Jill, her support social worker, that, Zena has a lot of responsibility at home, and this should never be, so what is going on in that home? And of course, Jill reports back to Zena's social worker. Cathy tries to discourage Zena from going to her home to collect her clothes, but realizes that there's not a lot that she can do to stop her. I mean, she's a teenager, and she can, get the bus after school and go to her home and collect her clothes, and there's not a whole lot that Cathy would be able to do about it if she did choose to do that. So Cathy talks to her and says, if you want to see your siblings, I can talk to the social worker about it, and we can arrange a visit at the family care center, where it would be safer. And Zena is pretty insistent. Oh, no. It's okay. I want to go see them at my home. Make sure they're okay. Make sure that my mom's okay and all that kind of thing. So Cathy decides to just let it go for now. And she takes Zena to the doctor, and it comes out during the doctor visit that Zena has a sexually transmitted disease. The doctor asks for Zena's permission to share this information with Cathy, and Zena says yes, it's okay. And so the doctor tells Cathy about the whole STD thing and how far advanced the disease is. And she says it's rather in the late stages. And then the doctor explains to Cathy about treatment and provides her with the medication that Zena needs for treatment, and tells Cathy what Zena needs to do to treat the disease. And so Cathy says, oh yes, I'll make sure that she does it, and we'll treat it, and it'll get cleared up, and we'll have regular checks and make sure. The doctor tries to convey to Zena that she has to let her partner know about the STD because it's a public health matter. Because in the UK, all STDs are reported to public health and logged. Xena becomes embarrassed and says that it's a boy about her own age and that she will contact him. And the doctor decides to leave it at that because she can see that Xena is very, very embarrassed and doesn't want to push her. So when they go home, Cathy decides to try and again reiterate what the doctor said about, telling her partner about the STD because of the public health report requirements. And Xena at that point tells Cathy, Cathy, it's a horrible story. I don't want to talk about it. Could we please just leave it alone for a little bit? I will talk about it when I'm ready. I'm sorry, guys. This book really tugged at my heart. And it's a little hard for me to talk about. But I felt like it was and is an important book review to do. So, Cathy just leaves it at that, and she's going on about her daily business, each day, and she is waiting for Xena to come to her with the information, and as soon as she does, Cathy will report it to public health. Now, in the meantime, while she's waiting, she notices that Xena has 2 cell phones. Now, she doesn't quite understand the significance of the 2 cell phones, but it is very significant. In our culture, Xena must constantly keep this cell phone on while she's away from home for contact purposes, I guess. So the phone is ringing very late at night a lot, and Cathy inquires about it, and she says, Xena, when you go to bed, we need you to go to sleep. You can't be on your cell phone late at night. And Xena says, oh, I'm sorry, Cathy, I've tried to tell this person that I can't be on the phone late at night, but he will not listen. So at that point, Cathy assumes that it's Xena's boyfriend that she's referring to. And she says, well, can you tell your friend that, he can call you during the day after school, but please don't call late at night anymore. And she tries to tell Cathy without tears, but she does end up breaking down into tears that it's not her boyfriend, it's her husband, and he's actually 50 years old. And Cathy is very, very, very floored by this information. And she's really taken aback by it. And she says, how can that be? You know? And Xena goes on to tell her this awful story of an incident that happened the one and only time when her and her family went back to Bangladesh when she was 9. So what ended up happening, long story short, Xena's cousin sexually assaulted her in Bangladesh. And after the assault happened, her parents told her that she was a whore and said that the only way to deal with the situation was to marry her off and get rid of her. So they go back to the UK and they find this man who's from Bangladesh, and he's willing to take a child bride. And so Xena and this man get married. And she doesn't want to live with this man, so she goes back home and tries to live at home, but her parents make it very difficult for her. And eventually Xena comes to the conclusion that the best thing for her to do is to go into care to avoid this whole situation. So that's when she decides to go into care. Cathy, of course, is horrified and relays this to the social worker. And it is only then that the magnitude of Xena's situation comes to light. And how much terrible danger she was actually in by staying at home. And everyone comes to the conclusion that by going into care, Xena did the right thing. But the rest of the story that Xena tells Cathy is that by going into care, Xena has dishonored her family, and they will get her back. They are going to, in Xena's words, they want to restore honor to their family. And the only way to do that is to harm Xena or kill her. And so that is why Xena did not want to be placed in an Asian home, an Asian foster home, because of the Asian network. You know, they are all linked together and they all support each other. So that was Xena's fear about being placed in an Asian foster carer's home. One day after school, Xena is walking by her siblings' school because she wants to see her siblings badly. So she goes to their school, and actually no, it's during a lunch break, I think, that she goes to their school. I'm sorry, it's been a long time since I read the book again. So it's during a lunch break that she goes to their school, and she visits with her siblings. And because the one time that Xena did go to get her clothes at her house, her mother did not allow her to see her siblings. Her siblings were actually told to stay in the room, and they were locked in their rooms so that they wouldn't come out while Xena was there. And so this lunchtime, she makes plans to walk back to her siblings' school after school and walk them home because she wants to spend some time with them. And as Xena is walking to her siblings' school, her father and her uncle happen to see her, and they threaten to do horrible things to her. And so Xena, she decides to call Cathy and tell Cathy what has happened. And I'm not gonna tell you what they threatened to do to her because it's horrible. And you should read the book. It's a book that's well worth reading. But anyway, Xena calls Cathy and tells her. And Cathy tells her to come straight home. And she does. She goes straight home. And Cathy calls the social worker. And the social worker makes a decision that Xena needs to be moved straight away. And Xena doesn't want to move because she likes Cathy's family. And she likes her new life at Cathy's house. But she realizes that for the safety of Cathy's family and for her own safety, she has to be moved. So the social worker makes the decision to move Xena into a women's shelter. And Xena really struggles with all of this. And she's angry that her family didn't love her enough to protect her, angry that her family thought that she was disposable, angry that she had to leave Cathy's where she finally did feel safe. She's very angry. It all works out in the end, and her father and her uncle end up going to prison for what they attempted to do to Xena. You should read the book. It's well worth the read. It's an eye-opening look at another culture, and it really changed my perspective on a lot of things in life after I read the book. Anyway, guys, that's all for tonight or today. I will see you tomorrow with another video from Angie's Inspirations. The reason why I do these book reviews is because reading is a very big part of my life, and reading is what centers me and what gives me peace and joy during my day. And not all of the books that I read are like this one, obviously. But I do read some books like that, because I do read Cathy Glass, but I really felt like this book was worth the review, and I highly recommend this book to anyone. Like I said, it's an eye-opening look at another culture, and anyways, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now. Have a great evening, guys.